Man, you guys don't even know, man. I was kind of scared of doing that.
I think it works.
This is try number 3. This is G-Man with Kel on What's the Matter podcast. How are you doing, Kel? Cross your fingers.
I am good. Sorry about all that. Totally my fault.
Goodness gracious. Man, oh man. Oof. Man, so let's see. So if there's, I don't think there was like, it didn't affect anything. Let's put it that way at this point. All right. Hey, this is the
slight delay.
Yeah. This G-Man again with Kel, episode 34 of What's the Matter podcast. And this is number 2 at doing a remote. We are both in our individual spaces in different cities and our home offices. And we are live streaming and, of course, recording this. And we've been starting to do a little bit of post editing. Did you get a chance to listen to the last? I know that you did. Did you finish the last one last week?
Yeah, both of them. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So what are you thinking? You must have had fun with the Office Space. You must have had fun. I was having fun.
That was priceless. That was great. I really did.
Starting out with it. Well, you're the one that did it. You triggered me. You said something about the TPS report, and then what I did is I just kind of reacquainted with all the classic kind of moments. Not all of them, but there were some that I was like the when they're kind of doing the gangster rap in the car and stuff like that, rolling up to work, and there was a bunch of stuff. We may have to revisit that. It was kind of like a reacquainting myself. Office Space was funny. Office Space was funny. Yeah, so
yeah, it makes me want to watch it again.
So, but hey, what's the matter with filters? So I know Kel has like her little issues with Apple computers and Steve Jobs and stuff like that. She'll mention that from time to time. But the reason that we are talking about this today, or what prompted me to talk about it, is there was, I don't know, it's been months ago where the Yahoo from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, don't know the guy personally, and of course, but he had mentioned running into another one of your favorites, Elon Musk, and so he was talking. I know a double whammy on you there, right? But he was talking about Kevin O'Leary was referencing that there are in life. He was talking about investing in business and stuff like that, of course, but he also said it parlays over into life, and this is where we're going to be spawning today. Is it signal or is it noise? And how to maintain internal peace by responding versus reacting. And so just to kind of set the definitions moving forward, Kel, and then we'll mention our sponsors and then we'll get into it. But think of the filter. What's the matter with filters? A filter today is, first of all, going to be your ability to recognize whether it's a signal or whether it's a noise, right? We want to recognize the signal and ignore the noise and decide whether something deserves your time, energy, and response. To follow me so far? And so, yeah. And then from your own kind of internal transmitter, if you do respond from your own internal transmitter, whether, you'll determine whether it's good for your mind, body, or soul. Right. So before we get started, just a quick shout out to, again, and thank you to World Matters Incorporated, who basically, helps sponsor the show, houses us normally when we're down at the Matterhorn studio. Also Big Bongo Productions, the creator, producer of the show. And, occasional shout outs we'll, do throughout the show. Oh, and last week, speaking of shout outs, what did you think about how we framed the revisit to the business detective theme? With the case study and all the evidence and things like that. Did you like that? Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll, we're talking about values. You guys, if you didn't listen to that, definitely go download that and listen to that in your own time. But other shout outs, of course, KPGF 93.7 FM in the Reno Sparks area. Also, they reach Tahoe and Sacramento and different parts of California, and they have different syndications, but they're shows America Matters, Military Matters, Being Blunt with Jay Biggs. You guys check those out when you get a chance. Okay. So first block, Kel. Let's see why we need filters, right? To determine whether something is signal versus noise. And so, kind of a thought, if you think about this, right? Some people are living their life, right? They're actually living their life. They're in it, and some people are living everybody else's noise. You know what I'm saying? So people that are
Mm-hmm.
consumed, we don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about, religion or politics or anything like that, but there are plenty of people that, I mean, every single day they're just polluting their minds, so to speak. And, this is the noise that's being created by somebody else. And I'm not saying that there aren't times to digest it, but being able to recognize, hey, I need to pay attention to the signal right here, or hey, that's just the typical noise, just like you travel down the road and you hear traffic, but you're not really thinking about the traffic. You're not thinking about the noise that the traffic creates. It's just part of it, right? It's just part of your white noise. So anyway, that's
Right.
kind of like the opening, let's say 60 seconds. What do you think about what we're going to be talking about today so far?
I think it's great. I think it's things that we don't often consider. The amount of noise around us, not just audio noise or just sounds and, noise pollution, but absolutely, you know, emotional noise, mental noise, physical noise. I mean, there is a lot of, we're surrounded by a lot more of it than ever before. And it's a good investigation into how we're coping with it.
Yeah, and of course, to define it a little bit further, let's say and let's frame everything to where, when defining the signal, is this is something that's being intentionally sent to you from
Mm-hmm.
from somebody or an entity. It could be a propaganda, advertising, and things like that. But it's something that's being intentionally sent to you, and it's worthy of your time and energy. That's the qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be worthy of your time and energy, or it's not a signal, because that's the qualifier for noise, is something that's a waste of time as related to your life that you're trying to create. Right now,
Right.
let's
Right.
say like you recognize, okay, this is just noise, right? When I say go on Facebook or Instagram, or whatever it could be, it's because you can't 100% be just like people are goal driven, but you can't, like, that's not a good balanced life if all you focus on is say every single thing as far as like your work is related, right? You can't be 100% consumed. There's like ins and outs. And so, but if it's something that you are conscious of, saying, okay, this is a waste of time, this little video game, or I'm going to go have some pizza, and of course you need that for nourishment, but anyway, just defining noise is a waste of time, and sometimes it's going to be okay for you to veg out and just watch Netflix,
What a waste of time.
things like that. So now the transmitter metaphor here, Kill, is that when you have this incoming message, and of course you're determining whether it's signal, whether it's noise, your filter is what qualifies it. Follow me so far? So that's why we're talking about the filters
Mm-hmm.
today. So your filter
Yes.
is what qualifies it. And then your response, whether to flush it because it's noise, or whether it's to respond to the signal, or whether it's to respond by saying, I know it's noise, but I need this donut right now, so to speak. And, but then you're going to be
That's called
responding.
food noise.
Yeah.
That's actually a thing.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. There's all kinds of noise. That's what I'm trying to point out. And so putting these filters,
Mm-hmm.
because that could be like, yeah, oh man, I'm hungry. I didn't eat anything last night. And, there's a Dunkin's donut right a block away. And then there's a Dunkin's donut commercial. So you get to determine
Right.
whether that's a
Right.
signal. Oh, am I supposed to do this? Or whether it's noise, like, this is going to hurt my diet or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, so fun stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Kevin O'Leary. Like, who I'm talking about, right? The bald-headed guy that was on Shark Tank. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So just kind of like an anchor, right? This isn't to use Kevin as any kind of hero worship or anything like that. Not that he doesn't deserve it. Sometimes a very successful man, but he's the guy that again brought this to the attention of us, for me, and talking about signal versus noise. And what he's basically doing was praising some leaders, mentioning Elon Musk, who cut noise fast, right? So he's basically saying, hey, he's in a meeting, and if he determines in like 3 minutes that this meeting is a waste of time without saying anything. He'll just walk out. And
That's rude.
you may exactly.
That's
Some
rude.
people
See,
are going
now
to say like but maybe there's
Mm-mm.
again, not to defend his behavior, but that's what he basically says. So, he's at.
that
It's
doesn't
almost
help
like
anybody.
yeah, yeah. Now remember,
Like if you're going to do that, people need to know why you're walking out.
yeah, but then
I mean,
again,
that doesn't help.
I can't understand. Like for example, there are mannerisms, that people that are just way out there, which I would categorize him as somebody that's way out there.
Person that I've seen that has a higher ratio than that is Elon Musk. He has no noise. He does not deal with noise. He is 100% signal, 24 seconds, every cycle. I mean, the guy is just 60 seconds of every minute, 60 minutes of every hour. The 18 hours he's awake, it's all signal. And look what he's achieved.
And I don't know
Oh,
again,
totally. He's
what is
definitely on the
medical
spectrum, too.
the spectrum, whether it's autistic and stuff like that. So I don't.
He's a multiple.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't claim to understand the man, but I can still take somebody else's observation from that and cut it away from, again, things like that. I don't know what it's like to be Elon
Sure.
Musk. I don't know what it's like to be in his mind. I don't know if whatever his situation is from a physiological standpoint is something that he can even control. You see what I'm saying? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Okay. But when he says things like, "Hey, in order for you to build a company, okay, and you have to have staff that you rely on to build that company, you need two things in people. You need people that are capable to do their job, and you need people that care about it." And like, how can you argue with that, right? Love them or hate them.
No,
That's
absolutely
nothing
not.
that you can argue with. So in this regard, same type of thing, signal versus noise. And what we're talking about today, which is being able to filter, something to determine that's still a good premise, regardless of how you feel about either one of these individuals. Wouldn't you agree with that? Yeah. She's like,
Yes.
Are you biting your tongue?
No.
So kind of like, let's place like, again, there's kind of, let's think about this as like three different types of filters. One that we'll be talking about. One is your internal self-talk, right? Is your emotional regulation. And this should be your priority. To me, I think, is like you need to, not that there's different ways to filter, there's different stresses and stuff like that. There's different things that affect us. But to me, just because it could like affect you negatively if you like blow up at the wrong time in front of the wrong people, right? Especially
No question.
especially
No
out,
question.
especially out in public. So if
Yeah.
I think the worst thing would be if you are being embarrassed on purpose by somebody else, and then the instinct to not just, again, speak your mind and put, and so anyway, there's different situations for different things. But the first filter, let's talk about the internal self-talk and your emotional regulation, right? Now, the second one that we're going to reference, we talked about this before, and that's your information intake, with news, social media, just media in general, right? So we'll talk about that kind of filter. And then one that you'll love is other people and boundaries, right? Relationships, work relationships, things like that. So those are the three filters. Let's see here. Give me some comments. What are you thinking so far about, again, having kind of mindful filters for different situations that may pop up one in any second? Because later on we'll talk about like a like 10 second, 60 second, and I think I have like a when you need to leave and decompress for about 5 minutes somewhere, type of situation. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But what do you think about those three filters? Saying, hey, internal self-talk, your intake for news, media, things like that, and then of course with people.
Yeah, they're all critical. They're all critical, especially right now. People really need to be, getting used to the idea, if they're not already applying it, why they need barriers and boundaries for information. It's our biggest input. It's what we're surrounded by it. Everything right now is like information. It's information based, and it's a lot. And those filters are critical for discerning what you need to pay attention to and what you can just let go. The most base definition of signal versus noise is a mental model and technical concept used to distinguish meaningful information from irrelevant distractions. And I mean, that's pretty much basically it. You know,
How important is this as related to general impulse control over everything? Like with the
it's all part of the same, it's all part of the same mechanism. You know, if you don't have, you know, filters, you're going to be led around just, you know, chasing thing after thing after thing. What do you need to pay attention to? And we've now gotten into this whole FOMO thing, this fear of missing out pressure of thinking that we need to chase every next thing, especially with all this new AI stuff coming in. You know,
Mhm.
because nobody wants to feel like they're behind or out of it, you know. And up until relatively recently, you could you could kind of stay in your lane and do your thing and go on with your life and not really have to worry about it too much. And now you've got stuff coming out of left field that, you know, you didn't even know existed all of a sudden, that you're having to deal with. And that can create a lot of uncertainty, which then can create a lot of fear and anxiety. So these
Yeah.
filters are critical. And you need sometimes it's hard to even determine what filters to put in place. So it's very helpful if you have, you know, sounding boards, people around you, coaches, friends, family. Friends and family aren't always your best, but they can help. But to have a truly disinterested third party, you know, or disinvested, I should say, third party, like a coach, a mentor, a therapist, a boss, even that, you know, or someone in your work environment that, you know, that you respect and trust and can help you kind of give you a mirror about yourself. Some, you know, like we had talked about several episodes ago about blind spots and,
Ari's
you know,
window.
with Ari's window. That's critical. We all have them. No matter how aware you think you are, we can't, I mean, just by our inherent human design, we are going to have things that we cannot see about ourselves without it being shown to us, you know. And so that's it's very, very important, you know, especially as people are getting more and more isolated and separated, to really seek out those, you know, those people and those resources that can help you see things, you know, in and about yourself. Not negative, not like what you're doing wrong or anything. It's not, that's not what it's about. It's, you know, just what do other people see in and around your behavior that, you know, could be more effective if you had different information.
What kind of examples of consequences would people probably experience throughout their life if they don't have somebody or somehow along the way find out the need, as we're discussing now, the need for filters, and they just have no filter? Because we do know people that just, we could just like, oh, that person, they have no filter at all because they don't care,
Usually
right?
when well, usually though, when you say somebody has no filter, that's with their expression. That's not so much about the information coming into them.
Right.
That's that they have no external governor that prevents them from saying certain things that could probably be better expressed differently.
Yeah.
That's really what no filter means when you say, you know, when you're talking about somebody. That's, it's really more about their expression. It's not so much about the information they're taking in.
Yeah. Or not saying,
But
or not, sometimes not saying anything at all,
right,
you know? So,
right. And their consequences can be huge. I mean, the consequences of not, I think probably one of the main consequences of not having somebody that you can bounce things off of is going decades down a path and one day waking up realizing it wasn't yours. I did that. I did
uh-huh.
that. I lived my life for my mother and didn't realize it until she was gone. And you know, it was okay because the paths I had taken benefited me and enriched me and were things I was interested in. But ultimately, at their core, they were done to impress my mother.
Uh-huh.
And when I realized that, I had a shattering effect in my whole being of like, oh my God,
Were you taught
55 years old, 50.
what kind of filters were you taught when you were young? Can you consciously like recall at any point where there was a teacher, mentor, coach, parent, somebody that had to teach you just like, hey, here's you can't conduct yourself like that.
Many times.
Oh, many times.
Yeah,
I knew not to talk back to my
I was
parents.
fortunate.
I mean, that was
no,
not.
no.
Yeah,
Do as I say, not as I do. Oh, I was heavily structured and conditioned around behavior. Because my mother felt that my behavior was a reflection of her, had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, yeah. There, the how the kids behave are a reflection of their parents. Yeah, I agree with that to a point. It doesn't define the parents don't necessarily. The parents don't define who ultimately a child becomes. But yeah. So. All right. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see. So on kind of still continue to riff off of say consequences. Let's think of it like I don't know. There's like a ladder, right? Yeah, that's a good one actually. Let's think of a ladder. You got your ladder that leans against the wall, and you got all the rungs of the ladder that you climb, right? And so thinking a bit again about the consequences. There's, of course, external consequences. If you don't know how to filter yourself, it could cost you your job. It could cost you all kinds of different things, relationships. I mean, it's all over the map, right? But let's talk about what it kind of does to you, right? The consequences of not having a filter and what it does to you. So the first thing I had kind of from a ladder rung is the first one. Let's talk about the anxiety and anger that you have inside if you do not have a routine or filters in order to be able to process disappointments, challenges in your life, and all these different things. Let's talk about that. Talk about the physical manifestation.
Filters.
What's that?
Your own personal filters.
Yeah.
As opposed to the ones that you use for external information coming into you. Because there's different aspects to that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the anxiety and anger, things like that you have to deal with by not having filters in place.
Oh, yeah. That's big. That's big. You get whipsawed in all different directions if you don't have those filters inside yourself of, this type of information, like I desire this and it doesn't happen. How am I going to deal with that? If you just let everything get to you and it's every disappointment becomes some, massive knockdown, you get to a point where you can't get back up. I mean, it's so hard. I did that. I did that too. I did that to myself. I literally ran myself down into the ground thinking I had no skills. I had no reason to be here. Nobody needed me. There was nothing on this earth that I was good for, and I just kept compounding that in my head. And then, of course, life would give me reinforcement for that because that's what my filter was. That's what my focus was just, how useless I was.
So what type of, if you think about it, so you had a filter in place, but what type of filter did you need that you didn't?
I needed a perspective, and I was totally isolated. I was completely alone, had no, very little external, anything, contact of any kind, much less somebody who was in a position to look at my situation and go, hey, knock it off.
And it's got to be like an angel on your shoulder, see? And if you ever get hurt and you feel that you're going down, just a little angel is going to whisper in your ear. He's going to say, get up, you son of a bitch.
And so, and I can talk my way in or out of anything. So I can argue you to death if I don't, if you, no matter what you throw at me, I can find something, good, bad, indifferent, up, down, devil's advocate, whatever. I can find something to throw at you if I really don't want to go there that'll shut it up. And I started to really see that tendency in me. And I'm like, wait a minute, these people are trying to help you, and all you're doing is making excuses for your own victimhood.
Yeah.
That's what it turned out to be. That's when I finally went, what are you doing? I'm arguing for my own disability. What? And I thought, geez, it had gotten pretty thick. And once I recognized it, I was just like, oh man. And I was able to snap out of it pretty quickly once I recognized it. But man, it took me a while to get there because self-pity can feel good. after a while. Like once you're mired in it enough, that chemistry, that brain chemistry will reinforce it and not make you feel good in the yay, woohoo, joy sense, but physically it reinforces a certain feeling in you of comfort, you know, like a familiarity, like, okay, this is, I recognize this is fine. This is good. And it can be really, really thick.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience.
Now, another rung on the ladder that I have here, that it's almost like if you climb these steps, you know, you're going to like fall off the roof or something like that, you know.
Right. There's a common adage that talks about, you know, you're climbing the rungs of the ladder only to get to the top, realizing it's been leaning against the wrong wall.
That's how I feel.
Old.
That's the kind of like the corporate experience, you know, for sure.
Exactly. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I was fortunate in that I was able to take all of those different experiences of going up the wrong ladder and, you know, cobble them into what I am now. It was all applicable. All the skills and experience were still applicable. It wasn't like I'd spent a whole lifetime as a seamstress or accountant or something and went, oh man, this is terrible. You know, I can't do anything with this. Everything I did, I can still use now in different ways. So that's been at least a saving grace.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the other rung that I have, if you do not, some of the consequences we're talking about, the consequences of not having filters. So the first one was like, you know, it contributes to more anxiety, anger issues, and just think of it also, if you're having anxiety and you're angry, then that's the like opposite of being happy, right? So that's why, to me, that's one of the main consequences of not having filters right there. Now, secondary one is that your health in general is going to be affected if you don't have filters. Sleep erosion, if you're going to be worried about things. And, you know, before you comment, Kel, worry. I was taught a bit this about worry, because stress management for me is, again, I was taught a very pragmatic approach, right? If any kind of problem, challenge, life situation comes up, right? So worrying about it, worrying in a general sense, does not accomplish anything. My routine is this: something comes in front of me, somebody comes, you know, family member, friend, work situation, it's emergency. First question: did anybody die? It sounds morbid, but like if anybody dies, like you can't do anything about that except kick into, you know, grieving mode or support mode and things like that. But avoid of not being able to do anything, which is, that's why you ask that first question, is now you go into problem solving, brainstorming, coming up with solutions, deciding on the next solution, right? So worry, the point is, worry does nothing only after you determine the best course of action, and then action is actually what starts curing. So I had to say that real quick about the worry part. But original comment was talk about how not having filters can eventually affect your health, and you will lose sleep if you're worrying about shit.
No question. I mean, if you're in a stressed state, inherently your body is in fight or flight mode. It's kicking off cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, you know, all the stress chemicals, and it, you know, what that causes in your body, and, you know, mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally, is going to be detrimental. You know, you're going to be distracted, you know, by being worried about something. You know, you've got your energy focused on whatever the thing you're worried about is. Everything else that's going on around you is being neglected. So, you know, there's that, and then, you know, what the worry does to your body, it depletes you of energy, you know, the ability to respond, you know, sleep, you know, repair, recovery at night that sleep gives you. And then all of that takes its toll emotionally, and you start to get depressed, and you know, it's just a downward spiral.
What's your take on my pragmatic approach to avoiding worry that I went on that rant about, my commentary? What's your take on it?
No, I think it's important. It's very important, and you know, what that looks like is going to be different for everybody. And so it's important. It's very important to figure out what your best response is to to mitigate that. And
Right.
it's filters, like we put those filters in place, that can catch the information coming in before it has the reaction. It's called there's a gap between stimulus and response, and that's what that filter is there for. You use that gap, let the information come through your filter, so you're not just hit blindsided and your body just automatically reacts. You take that second and go, okay, do I recognize this? Is this new? Is this, and then you start to go into like a decision tree of how to handle it, which then that focus on what to do, how to respond, takes you out of the instant fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So it gives you that time and your body a minute to realize that you're in the situation of needing to deal with a certain type of information that may not be common or may not be normal in the moment, and then you can apply it. That's the key. It's that mindfulness to be able to apply the filters. We all have them.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how often do we use them.
For sure. Another rung on the ladder of consequences, if you're not conscious and if you don't have filters, is work related, right? We're talking lost productivity, potentially lost money if your income is performance related, type of stuff. So talk about that. Give us some examples of how a lack of filters has consequences in the workplace related to productivity or possibly losing money.
Oh gosh. And I'm going to go with this on both sides. The filters of what you put in place for information coming in, and the filters or lack thereof of your expression to others. And they're super critical. External filters for your expression are very important because you're in a mixed environment, and everybody has their ego and their personality and their the way they feel about things.
Right.
And you have to be sensitive to that. I mean, you don't have to kowtow to people, but there's a certain protocol, there's a certain accepted speech and accepted behavior within that type of environment that everybody collectively understands. And what'll happen is you'll get people, things will start happening that don't sit right with people. Policies, procedures, management behavior versus staff behavior, dichotomies. You start seeing they're getting this cognitive dissonance about things that aren't right, and people will start acting out. Right. And they'll lower those filters, and they'll start being a little more expressive in more aggressive ways or more assertive ways. And slowly that starts to escalate too if nobody does anything about it. It can end up blowing back on you if you're the only one that's willing to actually put their head in the chopping block. It's very, very often they'll just cut you off like a diseased appendage and continue.
What kind of
that's when it gets really frustrating.
Interestingly, also, I just thought that what kind of filter would you need to put in place to say on the opposite side where you don't have a filter and you like overwork, right? And so there you have to have a filter, right, sometimes to prevent you from experiencing work burnout. Is that true? You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely,
all kinds of filters all over the place.
All over the place for all different situations.
Exactly.
Yeah, no question. Well, and I mean, this goes back to the saying that says people don't see you as you are, people see you as they are, because everything goes in and out of each of our individual filters.
Yeah, it's fascinating because as we go through this conversation, again, just like I just mentioned, it's incredible in this metaphorical example and this analogy, the analogies that we're going through, right? There's so many filters. Like it's reminding me, did you hear about this guy that got fired from Starbucks here locally for not changing the coffee filters? Crazy. Yeah, the management decided it was grounds for dismissal.
All right.
I'm not going to do laughing crickets today. I had that one in the holster, so to speak. All right, so let's tie this up. Let's see, what's the other Now, if you don't have a filter, so ending this, right? This ladder. So we've got, it's going to create anxiety, anger situations. It's going to affect your health, probably losing sleep, probably cost you some motivation, productivity, possibly some money, lost money at work. You want to avoid, of course, work burnout on the kind of 180-degree as far as like your filters go. But let's talk about, again, still on this ladder, the rung of having a relationship conflict. And this could be personal relationship, this could be a co-worker relationship, having a relationship conflict because you don't take the time to learn and implement filters. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's obvious, how something like this could happen, but just want to point it out, I guess, as one of these rungs on the ladder. Yeah. And what about a filter of, say, being easily manipulated? Like, do people recognize that they're easily manipulated? What percentage of people that are easily manipulated recognize that they're
easily manipulated?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's big. I mean, that's a big deal.
I convinced somebody one time
learning to recognize where and how you can get manipulated and ensuring those boundaries.
There was one time where I convinced somebody that I thought they were pretty gullible about things. And I told them, I said, just like, hey, it was like in the news. Did you know that the word gullible was taken out of the dictionary? And they're like, really? So I was like, prove my point right there. It's a little private.
That's cute.
Private joke. That's a true story too. Okay, so now let's talk about
funny.
So the consequences of not having filters. So now let's talking about having again, when I think about somebody that has no filter. It's kind of like I think of it like a reactive mouth. It's not a responding. It's like a reactive mouth, right? And then also I want to kind of contrast that with people that have, in a weird way, a reactive calendar as far as time management, right? There are times where impulse control, biting your tongue was a phrase that I heard, growing up. But what do you think about this little phrase here? If you have a fast response, you're going to have slow regret. There. So fast response, can lead to slow regret. So what do you think about that?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's very thought-provoking.
Now, again, wanting to avoid a reactive mouth. Here's another little quote. Because there's that old saying, I remember somebody said, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Right. So I think it's a notion of, picking your battle and don't be fighting about all these little unnecessary things. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff, right? Type of thing.
Being right makes me happy.
Yeah. I think, again, it's just like the importance of it, because think about this. How many times where you say no that you're right and the other person thinks that they're right. And then after arguing with them, it didn't change anything that they thought. And yet you kind of, again, put yourself through this, just unnecessary, type of thing. And so sometimes, it's just, better to bite your tongue and winning the moment. You may win the moment, right? But you could lose the relationship. And so it's just, I guess it's more so important, with, say, somebody that you're committed in a relationship for a long-term relationship, right? Because that's wear on you. Like if you're continually just trying to do these power struggles and stuff like that, two strong people, that's the most impressive thing to me sometimes is where, you have two strong people and they just totally behave differently with each other than they kind of do out in public, as far as like their business persona or something like that. So, and it's not limited just, of course, romantic relationships. I mean, it could be, again, family, coworkers, things like that this has to. So you may win the moment, but, losing the relationship, sometimes just keep that stuff in mind. Now, what I have here, Kel, kind of like as far as like a reactive calendar, let's talk about, I guess it's a little bit of a business slant, to it, or time management. You could have a very busy person that doesn't necessarily have a job, but they have a lot of other responsibilities, right? And having a reactive calendar stems from, to me, how everything, for some people, not you necessarily, you can comment on it, but everything feels urgent, right? And so
Yes.
They're just always busy. They're always saying yes, yes, I can do that, filling up their calendar and stuff like that. And then they don't have any time left for their health, for their mind, body, and soul. And so, comment on avoiding, or how to avoid maybe somebody that may be listening where everything feels urgent and they always have to say yes.
I used to be like that, and it can get easy if you're somebody like me who is single, no kids, no set hour day job, kind of very unstructured schedule. It can be really easy to do that reactive calendar thing, especially with ADHD. And because in the moment it always sounds wonderful, and then you say yes, and then a couple hours to a couple days later you can be like, oh shit, why did I say I wanted to do that? Because you did in the moment.
Yeah.
But then you didn't think ahead and go,
what was I thinking?
Am I really well, yeah. And that I had to put in place like compare and contrast filters, like, okay, is this worth my time? What else could I do that might be better? What, I have to ask myself specific questions to determine, okay, do I want to do this, or am I just, why am I doing this? How is it going to move the needle forward? And, or, and this is perfectly legitimate too, is this just for my entertainment? Is this just an outlet? Is this something I just want to do to let some steam off?
You know what you're doing there?
What happened to me was, yeah. Do what?
You know what you're doing there? You have your filter engaged, and you're talking about determining whether what you have coming in is signal or noise.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
Which is good.
And then, I end up, what happened to me was, how this really started was there's all kinds of free courses, classes, webinars, information, on all kinds of stuff. And I'm so interested in everything that, free, okay. And I would sign up for all these webinars, and every single one of them is a sales pitch.
Oh yeah.
They're very very rarely do you get any real meaty, usable, skills or information from things like that, because it's a tease to get you to buy their big program.
Right.
And I kept like trying to go through them and see what I could distill out and then figure out on my own kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I got myself caught up in just all this stuff that just wasn't necessary. Like it wasn't going to help me. It was just interesting at the time. So I had to cut way back on that.
Yeah. Have you finished that AI course yet?
Which one?
I don't know which one specifically.
Yeah, I have a couple of them.
It was last year.
Some of them are ongoing. Some of them are. Oh yeah. I did. I absolutely did. Some of them are like communities that I'm involved in that are ongoing.
Oh, gotcha.
They're not. It's not like a take the class, do the module, take the test, you're done kind of thing.
Yeah.
These are ongoing because the state of the industry is changing so fast that anything like that is any of those set courses, a lot of them end up obsolete within weeks.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
So yes, it's ridiculous. So I like to stay in these kind of real-time communities.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
They have a lot of pop-up webinars that'll, hey, we're going to do a webinar on Thursday. This is what we just learned. Come on in. And it's awesome. It's really neat.
Yeah, that's a way to do it. But hey, so to wrap this up again, so as far as like your time management, overfilling your calendar, just kind of think of it avoiding where other people's priorities become your life, right? So just
that's the key. Is it enriching you, or is it helping somebody else?
Yeah, because like think of it like if you don't choose your schedule, somebody else will. This is not a sustainable model. In other words, so just to kind of be conscious, just throw that little thought out there. If you find yourself just overwhelmed with your schedule, start like going back and saying, did I have to say yes of that? Or, was that like noise and I just said yes? And start identifying. You could put data points on a graph if you really want. But
and a good way to deal with this, like, because it's not going to get any better. It's going to keep escalating.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always like this. I mean, yeah, you could fill up your calendar with all kinds of stuff, but now there's so much online, offline, on the phone, in the class, whatever. And a good way to deal with that when you have a bunch of offers coming in, do you want to do this? This is available, this and that, is to have your automatic response be, that sounds great. Let me get back to you.
Yes.
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
I'll get with you and then sleep on it. Like literally overnight, let it germinate, let it integrate. And then when you wake up the next day, go, you'll feel different because you won't have those chemicals in the moment. Your body will have had time to process, and then you'll have a better, when you come at it calmly the next day,
yeah,
it may not look even remotely attractive. You may be like, why was I even thinking I was interested in that?
Yeah, no, that's a good segue.
So,
I actually have notes here also. So what you're doing, kind of think of your filter, and you want to triage into 3 levels of response, right? So like we're in the response part right now. And so give, let's say that you say, okay, this is a signal. And so you have to determine whether you want to engage right then, right? Because this is something worthy of your time, right? Or you can just acknowledge it. It's a signal, and I'm going to do this, but it's not urgent, right? And then, or of course, if you identify it as noise, then you just ignore it and get out. But 3 kind of triage levels of responding when these things come in, where you're saying, okay, is it signal or noise? Engage it. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is worth responding to, or yes, I'll respond to this, but in a little bit, or again, you're just going to flush it. So.
Yeah, and this is where the Eisenhower matrix comes in.
Talk about that
urgent,
for people.
Important.
Yeah.
That the Eisenhower matrix is that urgent, important, not important, not urgent, not important, box. It's a 4-way box where you can take that template and put whatever it is you're dealing with. You have a bunch of different offers or things coming in that you can do. It's a way to prioritize. Basically, it's a prioritization matrix.
Interesting.
That can help you.
I've heard of that before, and of course, in some form, I definitely have used it. So I didn't know it was tagged to Eisenhower, though. Interesting.
That's what it's. Yeah, that's the official name of it.
I love it.
So I mean, that with the Johari's window combination is amazing.
That's right. I love that tool. Yeah. I tell you, I've had that. Too. I've had that going. I think
there's a great. There's a really good. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying. I think 92 was when I read the book.
Oh wow! Yeah, probably me too. Probably.
And they of course made it. Came up with that in the 50s.
Yeah, but it got real popular again, kind of in the 80s and 90s with like the personal development. Tony Robbins was real big. Stephen Covey was still alive.
Right.
Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, all the biggies. The motivational, mindset. Even the Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles. There were a bunch of them. All came. That all came back up, kind of back into the zeitgeist again around the 80s and 90s when corporate America was blowing and going. And then they had all these programs in place. I was actually a certified Franklin Covey leadership coach back then. This was way early, back in 95. And I loved it. I was big into Stephen Covey. I loved that whole framework.
Yeah.
And I got all trained in it, and I was all excited. Here I was 26, so I was 27 years old, all like, yay, woo, corporate culture, we're going to fix everything, and everybody's going to love everybody, and blah, blah, blah. And we went through all these programs, and then, would try to implement, and like, mostly the women were all into it, and the dudes blew it off and would make fun of it. So it just died because they wouldn't take it seriously. It was kind of like sexual harassment training, everybody would sort of, they'd go through it because it was mandatory, but then joke about it later. It was a similar thing with this mindset. And they would see it as just one more form of corporate control and blah, 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 and didn't understand, that it was different. It wasn't the same old crap that had been shoved down from the IBM days kind of thing.
Right.
And it was a shame because it all fell apart. And, here we are today and things are a nightmare. Corporate culture is a mess. People's behavior is a mess. There's nobody, the inmates are running the asylum at this point. And what that causes is it causes more authoritarian cracking down and all the same stuff we all hate. But it devolves to that point when people don't take this kind of thing seriously.
Yeah. Why are you bringing me down,
it's hard.
man?
It's hard to enforce that. Yeah. It's hard to enforce that culture.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's think about, again, move on to this next little section here. So again, when you have a signal or noise come in, you're going to determine whether you're going to get engaged right away. That means the signal's worth responding to right away, or you identify it as a signal, but you're not, again, part of the filter. You're not going to deal with it right now, or you're going to identify it as noise and not respond at all. I also thought, Kel, remember how we were talking about starting over, and we had this little weekly start, stop, and continue. Start something new, stop doing something you've been doing, then continue something you have been doing. So we can do the same thing here, right? And so the start, stop, continue format. So the start is you're going to start, and this is kind of a special filter edition, right? And so you're going to start one boundary habit, right? Just start one, a different boundary habit, and it's good. The boundaries are all over the place too. You're going to stop one reflexive action. So kind of like, doom scrolling or just instant replying all the time or arguing in comments online. Oh my gosh.
Automatically automatically taking the opposite side.
Arguing.
I do that a lot. I'm very contrarian.
Too funny. And then of course, start, stop, continue, one thing that protects your peace, right? So start a new boundary habit, stop one reflexive habit, and then continue something that you're already doing that protects your peace. What do you think about that?
I think that's great.
Yay.
It's very powerful.
We want to give people tools, right? As we talk about these things that matter. So speaking of tools, right? And not talking about Steve Jobs, but let's talking about some of the tools of knowing how to respond, but don't react, right? Or again, respond, don't react. You want to be cool hand Luke. You don't want to be some, just always wearing your emotions on your sleeve type of person. At least that's the way that I feel, personally.
I agree. In certain situations warrant it, but most of the time it doesn't. Most things do not deserve or need some kind of overblown, emotional charge reaction.
Right.
Most things need careful consideration, really, and we don't do enough of that.
Exactly. So, Kel, I have 3 tools here, right? So the first, we've got 10 second, 60 second, and then a 5-minute kind of reboot. So let's go first. Okay. So the 10-second reset. So you have something that happened, during your day. You're wanting to respond, not react. And so this 10-second reset is, first of all, pause. Ask yourself, is this signal or noise? And then ask yourself, what's the cost if I respond wrong? And then you're going to choose what we just covered, whether you're going to engage right then, whether you're going to acknowledge, deal with it later, or whether you're just out. Hey, sorry, I got to go. I have a lunch date. We'll talk about this later. Something. So 10-second pause. Ask yourself, is it signal or noise real quick? What's the cost if I respond wrong here? You're not wanting to rush it. And then, of course, choose your engage, acknowledge, or exit. Okay. What do you think about that? Yeah.
That's good. And it's really good. And it helps in that moment to take a deep breath.
Yeah. I think your
central nervous system.
Yeah. You're so good. So that first one, we only had 10 seconds. So 60-second reset. I have breathed the first one. So there's 10 seconds, just real calm. 10 seconds goes by real fast. And especially like if it's something that was like not pleasant for you, just kind of like, you don't have 10 seconds to breathe. You got that 10 seconds to go through that thought process.
No, but if you stop and take
just like, I don't know. That's kind of body.
Regulate your
that's kind of like body. That's kind of like body language though, because if somebody says, you got to get that report in on time. If you go,
well, it doesn't have to be like that. If you just take it, just breathe in, breathe out. Count. It doesn't have to be a big box breath or hold it to none of that.
But here on this next one though, it's right there. Number 1, breathe, slow exhale, and then the second step in your 60-second reset is to name your feeling. Am I being triggered? Am I being rushed? Do I feel defensive? You see what I'm saying? So this, you got a little bit more time. You got a little bit more time. Yeah. Go ahead.
Where does it reside in the body? Where do you feel it?
Yeah. Here's another good one right here. So you breathe, as Kel mentioned, slow exhale, identify the feeling, whether you're triggered, rush, what's going on in your body. And then the next step after that is asking yourself this question: what outcome do I want in 24 hours?
Stay with me. Now repeat after me. Goose, goose, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, Nate. Goose, ooze, fraba. Goose, fraba. It's slower. Fraba. How do you feel? Better.
I love that. Right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, how is this going to look like 24 hours from now? I'm going to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Hopefully get, have sex, get laid. I don't know. whatever,
or
right?
just whatever, just something
24
relaxing.
hours.
Take a bath.
Yeah. I'm going to have coffee in the morning.
Have a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly.
Just
and
whatever it is that you find.
I love that question. And then the last thing is to respond with only one sentence or delay it. So 60-second reset. Breathe. Identify how you're feeling and why. Ask yourself, what outcome do I want in 24 hours? In other words, is this a small thing or is this one of those big things? I mean, that's really what that question is there. And then respond just real short, just like, hey, what's really disarming? Is just like, you know what? Hey, you know what? You're probably right. And thanks for the insight.
Yeah.
Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll think about that. Or just some acknowledgement.
Yeah, acknowledgement, because that's what they're looking for.
Validation.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
They're looking for it, so if it doesn't cost you anything, I always say, I say that a lot, just like I could be wrong.
I do too.
I say that to my wife more than anybody. Could be wrong. She's like, you are wrong.
I need to use that one more. I need to use that one more.
All right, now 5-minute routine. Now this is when it's some heavy shit, and we don't need to go down a rabbit hole of examples of when things could be heavy, because of course it's a little bit subjective. It's different for different people, But if you need to say, okay, I want to knock this MFer out right now, or I feel like crying, or I feel like quitting, anything like that. This is just heavy, like heavy situation. Number one, walk away. Just walk away. You got to change your state. Physically walk away. You got to change your state. Drink some water, breathe, as Kel mentioned. Just stand, talk to a tree.
Literally touch the tree.
Yes.
Hug the tree. That like touch the grass. Go put your bare feet in the grass.
Get that grass between your toes, so to speak. And so so it's a 5-minute routine. So, and then again, it's kind of like it sounds again just a little cliche, but this is why people journal, right? So walk away, change your state. If you have anything to write with, or shoot on your phone, get out your little note app, and then the 3 lines, right? So what happened? So you love this, Cal, because we're documenting, right? You mentioned that when stuff happens, especially at work, you like documenting. So that's the first thing, is just identify, kind of get it from your mind, to a pad, or, like I said, on your app, what happened? What are the facts? And just, again, facts, not feelings. What are the facts? This has happened. This was said. Okay. Number 2 is, again, just say, this is, again, maybe potentially one of the blind spot in Johari's window. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself? That's a deep one right there.
That's a powerful question.
Oh, my goodness. What story am I telling myself?
Is this true?
Yes.
How to identify the veracity of your story?
Well, no. Yes. So confirmation bias. So we all, like we were talking about, we all have this reinforcement. We like being right. We don't like striking out. Nobody likes striking out, right? We like we like being right. It helps us with our self-esteem, and all these different things.
This is a big consideration right now too, because you can find anything. Whatever your position is, you will find something somewhere to support and validate it.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, you will find other information out there that confirms it, especially with AI now and the way it hallucinates.
Right. Jesus.
And so you have to be real mindful and real aware that, confirmation bias is definitely a thing. And unless you have found facts, like you've gone out and done the research to triangulate and check sources and not just checking the same source or watching the same news or same feed.
Empirical evidence.
Yes, great term. And gathering empirical evidence that either supports or denies your basis, and then being honest with yourself if it's not the same, if you've been proven incorrect. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all get bad information.
In science, one of the first things you learn is that you can only trust the things that you can prove.
And information changes too.
Yeah.
So it's important to constantly revise and check on yourself to go, okay, I've been, this is the story I've told for X amount of time. Is it still true?
Yeah.
Does it apply?
Nothing wrong with saying, I did not know that. I learned something every day. I've even said, do you know how long I have been thinking that way? Yeah, wrong about this, and so good stuff. So that was just to remind you. So what story am I telling myself? And this is 5-minute routine. Things are heavy, get yourself away, walk away, get some water, breathe, stand. If you have the ability, write these things down. What happened? What are the facts? What story am I telling myself? And then number 3, another ding, 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 ding. What response matches my values?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's
right on the hills.
Key. But you hit on a good point. Writing it down, getting it out of your head into print on paper or on your computer or on your phone really helps with perspective.
Yeah.
Because when it's up in your head, you're thinking and feeling at the same time. When you pull it out and put it on paper and can look at it objectively, your feelings can change.
Yeah.
When you actually see it, like out of your head instead of swirling around over and over and over again, kicking up emotion.
Yeah.
If you look at it and go, oh, yeah, no, now that I see that written out, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Or no, that's not really how I feel. Or that's not what I learned.
For sure.
And that helps, right? Keep writing things, and especially because we spend so little time handwriting anymore, that hand-eye coordination, that motor, expression is real helpful in separating from,
it's kind of like these filters
from the emotions.
What these filters seem to be are in the moment questions that you ask yourself, that you have to have this like fast little processing, your thought processing, right? Would you, right? Kind of like that's really what we're doing. So what do you think about these filter questions that we come up with? So does this deserve my best energy or my leftover energy? So let's assume that it's a signal and you need to respond to it. What do you think about that kind of qualifying question to yourself as related to the energy required? Does this deserve my best energy or my leftover energy? Because there's a school of thought that if anything worth doing is worth doing right. And so you should always be putting your best energy. I would think that you're probably siding with that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are good questions. Like how much and what quality of energy should I devote to this? And that's a question a lot of people don't ask because they don't even understand energy. Like they don't understand that that's what we are, and that we're in these bodies to animate and express it and experience it. And until you really understand the paradigm of energy and what it is, especially through your own body, it's hard to determine quality of it. Most people don't think like that. They're just like, they go and go and go until they're tired. Those of us who have and know how to use our energy don't really get tired. We don't get exhausted or fatigued or run down like a lot of people do. because we know how to read energy around us and ground and shield and know when to engage and when not to. And that's a
Yeah.
really powerful skill.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of go till I drop. It's like,
Yeah.
because I'm normally like up about 5, and but it's like sometimes you push through, depending on what's going on. And what do you think about this one as discerning what between signal or noise? Or actually, let's identify that this is a signal. So they're saying this is a signal. So the question is this urgent or just loud? What do you think about that filter
and again,
question?
that goes back to the Eisenhower matrix.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, what response, is appropriate here? Do I need to do this now, or can it wait? And not in a procrastination sense, but just in a prioritization sense. In the natural course of accomplishing all these things, should these take place? And some are contingent on each other, and others are independent. So that's another important filter. That's a good one.
Now we had one, of course, in the moment. I think it was a 60-second reboot. So what do you think about this kind of extension of it? Will I care about this in 7 days?
Right. Oh yeah. Will I care in 5 years, 5 days, 5 months? 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a really easy, quick way to put stuff in perspective.
Right.
Will this matter in X amount of time?
Exactly.
That's very powerful. Yeah.
I like this one too. If I respond to this, what am I rewarding?
Oh, that's a good one.
Love this one.
That's powerful too, because you have to think of not only what outcome are you looking for or expecting or not expecting that might happen, but what am I influencing? What am I promoting? What am I sanctioning? What am I rejecting? And what does your energy feed into that?
Right, which is the
end result.
Which is the last one. The final filtering question. What part of this is mine to control?
You're right. Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes things aren't in your control, and that's the point.
Not even supposed to be. Some things aren't supposed to be, and we get involved in things that we really don't belong entangled with.
Exactly. Now let's do a little bit of playing around with what's the verdict, like we normally do. So just do a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
On this. So responding immediately to somebody is respectful.
Not always.
Why? Well, what's the smart version of responding to somebody immediately, and the toxic version, I guess?
It depends on the request. It depends on what it is you're dealing with. I mean, obviously, if somebody's injured or your plumbing is broke or whatever, that's going to be an instant, oh, okay, you need something, you need help, whatever. If it's something that they want or that benefits them but may not necessarily benefit you, that's when it gets important.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the exchange here? Is it something you want to do to create a bond with them or a certain impression or future potential or whatever, versus if I take my time here, will it change the dynamic of the request? I think that's the key right there. If I don't respond immediately, will it change the dynamic of the request or the relationship? And what's the other person's expectation?
Have you ever been in a situation or imagine where, let's say, somebody sent out an email or communicated something in one way, and you have a copy that could refute that? Right? So you have a receipt that's counter to something that somebody is claiming, right? Talk about your criteria about reading those receipts, because the point is that sometimes doing that can actually create these emotional landmines.
Right. And again, that's a dependency. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's all about being able to read the room, read the energy, the person, what are, being able to kind of analyze what it is that they're looking for. And is it something you can provide without much cost to yourself, or, will it benefit you? mutually or whatever.
That's what you're saying
And
when we're
it's
talking about.
basically an exchange.
Yeah, and we're talking about, what's the reward in this? Is this something where I'm just going
It's in it for me,
kind
or
of,
the situation, or
So reference back to thumbs up or thumbs down. Reference back to when we were talking about individuals that, let's just like mindlessly fill up their calendar saying yes all the time, right? So what do you think about this? That your calendar is the clearest proof of your values?
No, I don't know about the clearest proof. It's an indication. Not everybody keeps a calendar. You know what I mean? Like, like not everybody keeps everything on their calendar.
But those that do,
And
right? Let's say like there's people my
that
calendar
do,
runs my life, type of thing. If you're not on my calendar, I'm not going to be there, or I don't know anything about it. Got to be on my calendar. There are people like that. So, because it was relating to the time management, right?
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that's too rigid, and I think people lock themselves into things, and they miss opportunities where flexibility could completely enrich, the situation, themselves, their whatever. I think people who do that, where they use the calendar as an excuse, so they don't have to think. They use the calendar kind of as a blockade to just say, either put it on my calendar, or if it's not there, I'm not going to be involved. And I think that's a lazy, I don't think that's good. I'm going to say thumbs down to that.
Muting people is healthier than confronting them.
In certain situations, that's a fact. In most cases, I would say I would disagree with that. But if you're dealing with a narcissist, a psychopath, things, and when I talk about these terms, I'm not talking about these overt, huge, easy to spot, people that are afflicted with this. When I say the word psychopath, immediately people think serial killer. No. Normal people that seem normal to you can be absolute psychopaths in day-to-day life. They're not killers. Not all psychopaths are killers. All killers are psychopaths, but not all. I mean, all serial killers are psychopaths, but not all psychopaths are serial killers.
I thought that. I thought that's like seems like you're actually talking about sociopaths. Because there is a distinction.
Sociopath is a slightly nice version. It's all the same thing. It's all the same disorder. It's ASPD, antisocial personality disorder. The word sociopath, because psychopath creates so much distortion in people's heads, the word sociopath was created, but they're really not different expressions.
Interesting.
They're basically the same thing.
So like a sociopath is somebody that isn't a serial killer, but they would have the capability if they put their mindset to it.
Not necessarily. It's not, because serial killer psychopathy has been typecast with serial killers. Like it's so tightly linked. It's hard for people to get out of the paradigm and understand that their partner could be a psychopath just because they've never threatened them physically.
That'd be interesting.
It's not about the physical threat. It's about the person. Psychopathy is a complete and utter lack of empathy.
It would be interesting to find out, like, of all the psychopaths, how many of them, percentage-wise, have not killed somebody?
Many. Most
psychopaths never kill anybody. Okay.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, again, all serial killers are psychopaths. All psychopaths are not serial killers. It's just, that's the most common and dramatic expression
that makes sense,
that most people tend to think about, but that's not really necessarily what it is.
Yeah,
and
I got you.
They're very specific traits, that people, you have to have a certain amount of there's a list of traits for all of these, for NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, ASPD, BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, and HPD, which is histrionic personality disorder. These make up what are called the cluster B personality disorders, and they all have different criteria for diagnosis. And in order to be officially diagnosed, you must have a certain number of them. Like with narcissists, in order to be diagnosed with NPD, you have to have 5 of the 9 traits.
Now, just remember also that even psychopaths have filters.
Oh, absolutely.
They have a lot of filters.
They can create, they can be calculating and create their filters, for manipulation, for, absolutely. Filters can be used in many different ways.
What do you think about this one?
Yeah.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? No is a complete sentence.
Absolutely. No question.
Excellent.
question.
All right. The last one. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
No, I disagree with that. I think that's a little intellectually lazy.
Gotcha.
If it's not a firm yes, I mean, if it's wishy-washy or, I don't know, not sure, then I would more consider towards no. But if like, to me, hell yes is like, I know for sure this is going to work. This is what I want. Yes, cut and dried. And it's, just because it's not that doesn't mean it's necessarily a no. I think that's a spectrum.
So now I'm going to have some suggested, just some claims here. And I want you to do your due diligence. You may know it already, or just doing a little bit of research, right? So the first one, at sleep plus stress reduces your impulse control. In other words, this is why your reactions spike when you're tired, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you familiar with the term attention fragmentation?
I may not know it as that. What is it?
Check it out real quick. So attention fragmentation. Okay. So the claim is that attention fragmentation increases anxiety.
Let's see here. Refers to the division of our cognitive resources across multiple stimuli, like multitasking.
Yes, which is something I do all the time.
I do
every day
too. Most people think they're good at it and really aren't. I have forced myself to be able to do it. Decades ago, I split my brain into 4 different quadrants and made it so that I used to, when I was in IT, I did this when I was in IT, because I would be dealing with business problems and then technical problems. And some technical issue would come up that I didn't know off the top of my head, and I would do what I would call in my mind, send it to the back. And I could still operate basically with my full frontal lobe, day-to-day navigating, dealing with people and stuff. And this would be processing in the back of my head and would help me come up with an answer later, usually after I'd go to bed. Yeah. And then the next day I would have a direction, or sometimes it was a straight answer, but I ended up having to do that. I started doing it not quite that granularly, but I started teaching myself how to multitask when I was a secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And
so this claim says that attention fragmentation increases anxiety.
It can.
Yeah.
It can.
Okay. Now, what about this last one? Having boundaries reduces burnout and resentment.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Very true.
All right. Now, yep. we promised to have kind of like this daily filter routine. I like this approach because it's kind of like, it's a morning, midday, and evening kind of routine that takes just a couple minutes, maybe 60 seconds. So the first thing in the morning, take a couple minutes to ask yourself, today's signal is going to be this. So in other words, there's something that came in that's already maybe the day before, a couple days ago or whatever, that's worthy of your attention. So you're identifying what you're going to spend your time and energy that you've already qualified as a signal, not noise. The second thing in that 2 minutes in the morning is to identify today's noise that I refuse is this. Is it, getting on your phone and doom scrolling, or whatever noise that you sometimes engage in? You just make a decision that morning that you're going to do this signal and you're going to refuse this particular noise. Okay. So that's the morning. Now, midday, again, 60 seconds, a couple minutes, just kind of review, little mental review. Am I reacting to things or responding? Have I had my coffee?
Right.
And then
it's a legit question.
Right. Especially if you, aren't, haven't went to lunch yet or something like that. I don't know. Maybe Alice in accounting, is just a pain in your butt. Who knows? But am I reacting or responding? And then what's the next right move? Basically, we gave you a lot of criteria, today. So just kind of take a little midday check. Now in the evening, a couple minutes to review something, because it happens often. Was there anything that stole my peace today? what, who, type of situation.
That's a great review.
I like
Yeah.
that, right? What stole my peace today? And if you go through a day where nothing did, you're just like, oh, thank goodness, blessed day. Second thing
And I
is,
bet.
second thing
Go ahead.
is,
I was gonna
is,
say,
is what boundary will I set tomorrow? So what stole my peace today? What boundary will I set tomorrow? And the boundary may be with yourself, maybe with somebody else.
absolutely. More often than not, the boundary is with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good one, like to review, because I think we often don't think about that. I think a lot of times we'll stuff away, like little shit happens during the day. Somebody cuts you off in traffic or honked at you or cut in front of line or whatever. And then just push it away, and don't think about it. But then this little agitation starts to build up. And then you find that all of a sudden you're snapping at other people or you're driving funny or whatever.
Right.
And so that's I really like that.
Yeah. We had some good.
I don't do that. And I think I'll start where I'll be like, all right, so what pissed me off today?
Yeah.
What did I let get to me that I could have let go in the moment?
Exactly.
Hey, that's a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like trigger examination.
Exactly.
That's good. I like that.
So what are your final thoughts on today's episode on filters? What's the matter with filters?
Subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. A really good subject. I think it's important because, it then again feeds into your boundaries and what you will and won't accept for, your own and others' behavior. And, you get to do that. It's like give yourself permission. I think a lot of times, we go through life just kind of getting whipsawed one way and the other by other people's, motives. Because we want to help you. We want to help. We want to respond. We want things to move along. We want to collaborate. Most of us come from a positive outlook towards requests from others and things like that. But you have to limit that, otherwise people will take advantage. Not negatively or not in some nefarious way. It's just the way it goes. More accommodating people are going to get more requests. So it's up to you to determine what your limits are. And it's okay to have limits. It's okay to tell people no.
Yeah, exactly.
We weren't taught that. I wasn't.
No way.
So
what do you think? Any final thoughts before we end episode 34?
No, I think it was a really good one. We'll say hi to Kathleen Hanley from Just in Tux. She's listening in.
Woohoo.
And so just everybody have a great week.
Yeah.
We're kind of winding down this month already. Can you believe it's the 21st of January 2026?
It is crazy. Well,
you went to Marcolino's last night, you said.
Yeah, it was great.
Shout out.
Yeah, well, it was good stuff. Well, all right, that's What's the Matter, episode 35. So, heck, guys, if you want internal peace, you need filters. World's always broadcasting, but you get to decide what counts as signal, what's noise, what deserves a response from your own transmitter. Your mind, your body, your soul. So protect your peace. Pausing is power. Respond, don't react. So big thanks again to World Matters Incorporated, Big Bongo Productions for making this show happen. Shout outs to KPGF 93.7 FM, the rest of the WMI shows. And so next week on episode 35, What's the Matter with Cheaters? And we're not doing this shock jock stuff, right? I told you we're doing this, and we're going to be looking at real life damage, psychology behind it. We'll go through some of the warning signs, what it takes to rebuild trust, or maybe recognize when it's time to walk away with your dignity intact. And so this one's going to be honest, maybe uncomfortable, but necessary. So from all of us here at What's the Matter, I'm the G-Man for Cal. As always, stay curious, stay kind, and protect what you say, because it matters. Until next time, see ya!